All right.
Can AI reset the way we use and consume social media? That was the first question I asked James Slezak, CEO of Swayable, a platform focused on measuring the impact of AI all around the world.
Well, I think there's two parts to the question. I think AI is helping us measure what persuades now much better than was ever possible before. Swable's had incredibly sophisticated population models that look at large numbers of people, show them messages, and then we can actually make a measurement based on survey responses whether messages persuade. So I think for folks running big campaigns on social or other platforms, that's now helping them succeed at a level that wasn't possible before. At the individual level, when you post and you get into little dialogues just as an individual, I mean, I think it's kind of a brave new world. There's definitely fears that we might see inauthentic activity from large language models being deployed on the platform, and I think some platforms like X, we're certainly seeing that. But it remains to be seen whether or not that's going to be able to be kept under control.
We're seeing some of these things play out in the headlines. For example, we're seeing this fight between Brazil and Elon Musk. We're certainly seeing TikTok taking a beating in the United States.
Yeah.
What role should government have or not have when it comes to social media companies?
Yeah, well, I've got to say, in any fight between Elon Musk and anybody, I'll be on the other person's side. So, I don't know exactly how it's going between Brazil and him. But look, I mean, governments in general, I think, rightly people look to them not to interfere too much in marketplaces of ideas or platforms for media. I think at the same time, when we don't have very many of them, then they're in an awkward position where they're becoming a de facto town hall square. So I think getting that balance of regulation right, it's very difficult when we have a very monopolized or sort of oligopolized market structure. I think one thing governments can do is simply help enforce competition law.
You have a PhD in experimental physics, also very advanced studies in economics. Let's talk about AI and economics. We're seeing some crazy numbers when it comes to AI valuations. Of course, these are the bigger companies, but still, billion is not unheard of. We're seeing trillion thrown around. Is there enough money when it comes to investing in AI? Where is it all coming from?
Well, look, these are incredible breakthroughs. I mean, the companies leading them, OpenAI, I think, sort of, foremost, and then a set of other firms like Anthropic and other great startups like Nomic in New York or, Runway. We've got to start by realizing they're doing incredibly valuable work. The technology they built, few experts thought would be possible in decades if you had asked them maybe, just before the rise of generative AI, maybe in, 2018, 2019. So their valuations, I think, are on the one hand speculative, but on the other hand, I think based on some reality about the likely nature of such a big breakthrough. So is there enough money there? I mean, look, I think they've certainly probably got enough cash to, look after themselves for now. I don't think anyone's too worried about the funding for the AI companies. I think people are starting to worry about the balance of money that goes to folks creating the content that they're trained on. And I think all of us would love to see a world where these incredibly impressive AI companies can continue to train on whatever data that is available in the public domain, while also recognizing that, if we sort of leach the value out of the media companies, that we're ultimately going to lose both the media companies and the basis for training the models in the first place.
James, you're doing a talk about AI and ethics.
Yeah.
What do you think the biggest danger is today? Is there a danger? What is your biggest concern?
Yeah, I mean, I think the models are incredibly sophisticated and people, including their creators, actually don't really understand how they work. I mean, when GPT-3 came out and had all these magical capabilities, writing code, translating languages that had never really deliberately been trained on, solving problems, this was as much of a surprise to the team that created it as to others. So I think what that means is as they start to get deployed, the interpretability of the kinds of decisions they're taking or the reasons behind what the content that they're coming up with is really still a mystery. So that leaves all kinds of potential traps, whether it comes to fairness of decisions if you're dealing with human resources management or people's creditworthiness and the targeting of advertising campaigns. There's all kinds of, I think, legitimate questions being raised. And so I think these really have to be addressed one by one. I think that they don't really exist so much at the level of the foundation model as much as what is the operation of the business that they're actually being used to drive some piece of the decision making in. So regulatory frameworks like the EU are starting to explore. I think are inevitable in some respect.
With all the different headlines we see about AI and the different sectors and industries that it's now a part of, what is the one thing that we aren't hearing enough of when it comes to AI?
Oh, look, that's a great question. What are we not hearing enough of when it comes to AI? Look, I think we're starting to hear more, but maybe not enough about multi-agent models. I think maybe the people at the cutting edge of R&D are starting to deploy this, where instead of a single model, you've got effectively a team of different models. I think that's an incredible development in the space that's going to lead to, I think, some really magical possibilities.
James Slezak, thank you so much for joining us.
You bet. Thanks for having me.